How did we get here? It all started with these things. Yes, these things. Even if they look nothing like French horns. It's pretty obvious where the horn part came from, but the French part, that's a longer story. Let's rewind history and find out, is the French horn really French? The original French horns were just horns made of real animal horns. The original horns are shofars, which are ram horns. They're actually still used today in Jewish religious ceremonies, such as Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, making them arguably the longest used wind instruments in history. Historically, shofars were used for war. They were used to intimidate opponents or signal victory. Shofars date back to at least 10,000 years ago. That's the Neolithic era, which is before wheels, before riding, and even before woolly mammoths went extinct. Yes, woolly mammoths lived to hear the call of the French horn. At least, kinda. Another main French horn ancestor that existed around this time was called the low horn. Bronze lulls were long, like 7 feet or 2 meters in some cases. Low horns were some of the first instruments made for duets. While I'm over here struggling with my ensemble part, ancient Scandinavians are playing on long tube bronze pieces like it's no big deal. Lulls are often used in ceremonies, making them the first horns ever to be specifically tied to music and not just signaling. Finally, cow horns. Yeah, it's exactly as the name implies. Cow horns were used across Europe, Asia, and Africa, and honestly, that makes sense. They are literally just sitting there on animals. Nature handed us a free noisemaker, and humanity collectively said, let's toot it. They are used in both ancient and medieval societies, potentially back to the late Neolithic era, and in some places in the world, they're still used today. Portals and messengers often used cow horns to project their voice, basically ancient megaphones. Hunting horns. Okay, so now we're leaving the days of blowing into actual animal parts. Rest in peace, cow horn. You tooted valiantly. Let's fast forward to 17th century France, around 1650. This was the age of hunting horns. These horns were designed for practicality. Imagine this. You're a French noble, galloping through the countryside, and you want to blast a fanfare out a deer. But regular horns are too long and awkward. Solution? Claw up your horn into a giant circle and then wheel it as a medieval saxophone strap. Genius! The horn even faced backwards so it wouldn't block your view of the hunt. Imagine trying to aim with a giant metal cone in your face. Not ideal. There were even different types. You had the calling horn, used to communicate long distance. The horn of many tones, which sounds like a Dungeons and Dragons item. The horn of one tone, the minimalist edition. And the big horn, which, yeah, it was big. But here's where things start getting musical. In 1664, French composer Jean-Baptiste Lully decided to throw some hunting horns into a ballet. Yes, a ballet. Because if there's one thing that screams graceful dance, it's someone screaming into a hunting horn. But guess what? It actually worked. Composers realized, wait, these can be used as instruments? Suddenly, horns weren't just for chasing deer. They were used for painting musical landscapes, musical fanfares, scenes, calls. That wild, brassy tone became iconic. But there was a catch. You couldn't play all the notes. You were stuck with whatever notes your horn was built for. If your piece needed a different key, too bad. You'd have to switch out your entire instrument. Imagine being in the middle of a concert and pulling out horn number 4 like it's a Pokemon card. Not ideal. So, musicians got clever. They realized that if you put your hand inside of the bell, it would adjust the pitch. This trick, called hand stopping, gave the horn more flexibility. In the script, it says for me to play a scale using hand stopping. I couldn't find an online guide how, so here's my best attempt. It kind of worked. Then came a true game changer. Detachable crooks. These were little tubes you could interchange that change the pitch of your instrument. You still have to do it between different pieces though. Ah! But hey, at least you aren't hauling a full blast zoo around. This era was all about transition, moving from natural animal-born sounds to something more deliberate, something more musical, something more French. Kind of. And while we're still not at the modern French horn yet, we're starting to hear echoes of it. Curvular shape? Check. Metal body? Check. Hand and bell? Check. Musical range? Kinda. We're getting closer. But there's a problem. You can't easily change keys while you're playing. No smooth modulations, no jazz accidentals, no running up and down the scale. Which, is fine if you're living on the edge, but not so fine if you care about your sanity. The valve. In the early 1800s, two guys, Heinrich Stotzel and Friedrich Blumel, came up with an idea that would change the horn forever. Also, yes, German names. The French horn is about to get a bit less French. Also, sorry if I pronounce the names wrong. German is hard. Stotzel was a horn player, and according to historical sources, he was very tired of only being able to play 7 notes well. He started tinkering around with ways to shortcut the tubing during performance. Blumel was a minor and an amateur horn player, which sounds like the most intense double life ever. By day, cool. By night, concertos. Somehow, in 1814, they both simultaneously had the same idea. Add little mechanical valves to reel out the air inside the horn. Tiny doors you can open and close with your fingers. On command, like magic. In 1818, they even filed a joint patent together. The first valve horns looked a little janky though. Kinda like someone glued a bunch of plumbing parts onto a natural horn. And there were only 2 valves back then. But they worked. For the first time in history, you could play all the notes on the chromatic scale without swapping horns or switching crooks. Freedom. Power. Chaos! Come on, I forgot there's only 2. But, of course, the classical music world is, as always, allergic to change. Many musicians hated valves at first. They muddy the sound. Real horn players don't need that technology. Back in my day, we buzzed uphill both ways. There was a divide between the hand horn players, the purists, and the valve players, the rebels. But slowly, valves won, which probably isn't a surprise. Rotary valves. The spinning ones, like the ones in modern horns, became popular in Germany. Piston valves, the up and down kind, like the ones in trumpets, became popular in France, which is ironic because the so-called French horn uses German valves. Confused? Yeah, me too. Now that we've got valves, horn players can play all the notes. Right? right? No, there's still one huge problem. The horn sounds way different in different registers. High notes were thin and stretchy. Low notes were beasty, but hard to aim. Middle notes were fine, but a little awkward. Early horns are usually built in F, which means they are about 12 feet or 4 meters if you unroll them. Great for rich, heroic sounds. Terrible if you wanted to blast something quick and accurate, though. Solution? Make a second, smaller horn. Attach them. Combine them. Because obviously the answer to this horn's too big is to make it bigger. The double horn. In the late 19th century, French hornmaker Fritz Kruspe developed the first F B flat double horn. Basically, you could play normally on the F horn if you still wanted to, for bold, rich sounds. How do I get this in? Then, by pressing the thumb trigger, you could switch to a shorter B flat horn. Get in. It just fell. I can't get it fully in. I think I did something wrong. Oh, never mind. It's like having a turbo mode booster. It's like having a turbo booster mode. Why be flat? Shorter tubing equals higher pitch equals notes slot easier equals horn players crying less during auditions. Why keep both? Because you want that rich tone and agility. And because horn players like carrying around unnecessarily heavy instruments. A double horn weighs about 6 to 8 pounds, by the way. That's like carrying around a bowling ball and still trying to look elegant. That's like trying to carry around a bowling ball while still looking elegant. And the case adds so much more weight. I'm getting off topic again all the time. Soon, the double horn became standard for bands, symphonies, and orchestras all around the world. Soon enough, in the 1900s, if you were a serious horn player, you needed a double horn. And if you didn't have one, well, prepare to get buried under the trombones. So, is the French horn actually French? Big question. We've been asking it since the beginning. Is the French horn actually French? Kind of, at first. The original hunting horn, French invention. The idea of calling them into a circle, French idea. Using horns for music, French origin. The modern horns with valves, rotary systems, and different sides that we use today, totally German. In fact, most professional horns we use today are built in Germany. Shout out to Paxman if you're in the UK. Fun side fact. In professional settings, you almost never hear them call it a French horn. It's almost always just the horn. My name is a lie. French horn is a casual term mostly used in English-speaking countries, probably popularized in the 1900s to sound fancy. Like calling fries French fries. Spoiler alert from Belgium. And that brings us back to today. The modern French horn. The metal bottom, the modern French horn. The metal body, the rotary valves, the way too much tubing. It's descended from hunting horns, which came from cow horns, which came from ancient animal horns, which basically means that every time I'm missing a note, I'm disappointing 10,000 years of musical evolution. No pressure. And hey, next time you hear a horn blast across a music soundtrack in a movie theater, just remember, it all started with a lamb, a dream, and a whole lot of confused mammals. The grass is wet,